The school laboratory smelled faintly of alcohol, old chemicals, and dust-covered glassware. It was an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, sunlight spilling in through the high windows as students shuffled in with half-bored expressions. Miss Alina Cross, the chemistry teacher, stood at the front, calm, collected, her presence commanding in a way the students couldn't quite explain. She wasn't flashy, not loud, but there was a quiet intensity in her sharp eyes, something that spoke of a past most never dared to ask about. For years she had been just Miss Cross, the strict teacher, and that was enough. But today, the fragile balance of her carefully built life was about to. The laboratory clock ticked slowly, its sound echoing through the half-empty room. Students leaned lazily over their stools, tapping pens, waiting for class to end. Glass beakers reflected the pale afternoon light, casting strange patterns across the walls. At the center of it all stood Miss Alina Cross. Her figure was lean, movements precise, voice calm but sharp enough to slice through the room's laziness. She was not the kind of teacher students could easily mock. There was something in her gaze that made even the most careless teenager straighten for a moment before sinking back into bad habits. But Tyler Briggs, the school's reigning tyrant, had no respect for anyone. His reputation was infamous, bullying weaker students, humiliating teachers, even threatening those who dared oppose him. He carried his arrogance like a crown, and behind him trailed a group of followers too cowardly to resist him. To them, Tyler was untouchable. Today, however, was different. Tyler had grown restless, his ego bruised by a recent incident in which Alina calmly dismissed his antics during class, reducing his tough guy act to nothing in front of his own friends. That humiliation burned deep, and Tyler wasn't one to forget. He waited for the right moment, and today, inside the chemistry lab, he decided to strike. As Alina turned to write a formula on the chalkboard, Tyler's voice cut through the room. "Hey, Cross, ever been choked by your own rules?" The class froze. Students glanced nervously at one another. A few laughed, more out of fear than humor. Alina, unshaken, continued writing. But Tyler wasn't finished. He stood up, towering over his desk, his footsteps heavy as he closed the distance. "Alina Cross," he sneered, using her first name deliberately. "You think you're tough, huh? You think you can embarrass me in front of everyone?" Alina finally turned, her eyes steady. "Sit down, Briggs. Don't make choices you can't undo." The warning, calm and cold, should have been enough, but Tyler's pride was louder than reason. In a reckless burst of anger, he lunged forward, his hand shooting to her throat. Gas erupted. A girl screamed, a beaker crashed to the floor. For a brief second, Tyler believed he had won. The iron grip around his teacher's neck, the sight of her body against the counter. His friends looked on in shock, caught between fear and twisted admiration. But then something shifted. Alina's eyes didn't widen with fear. They narrowed, calculating. Her hand moved faster than anyone could follow. In a blink, she twisted her body, trapping Tyler's wrist in a painful lock. He groaned, knees buckling as the pressure surged through his arm. In a single, fluid motion, she spun him around and slammed him against the lab table, pinning him effortlessly. The class erupted in chaos, but all eyes were locked on Alina. Her calm mask cracked, revealing something terrifying: precision, discipline, the kind of movements no ordinary teacher could know. Her voice, low and controlled, broke the silence. "Do you want to know what fear really feels like, Briggs?" she whispered against his ear. Tyler's bravado melted into panic. For the first time, he wasn't the predator, he was prey. Principal Green's office was suffocating. The blinds were half drawn, letting in streaks of light that fell across the polished wooden desk. Tyler Briggs sat in one of the chairs, cradling his sore wrist, rage burning in his eyes. Alina Cross stood silently by the window, her posture straight, her gaze steady. She didn't fidget. She didn't beg. She simply waited. Green rubbed his temples. "Miss Cross, I don't know what I just walked into, but this situation is serious. A teacher physically assaulting a student." "She didn't assault me." One of the students burst through the doorway before Green could finish. It was Daniel, the quiet boy Tyler often bullied. "Sir," Tyler attacked her first. He grabbed her throat in front of all of us. She only defended herself. Another student appeared behind him. "Yes, sir, we all saw it." "Miss Cross didn't do anything wrong." Tyler started it. Green looked at the crowd forming outside his office, voices overlapping in defense of their teacher. For once, Tyler had no followers cheering him on. His smirk faltered, but his pride wouldn't allow him to back down. "She broke my arm?" Tyler spat, though the joint was only sprained. My dad's gonna sue this entire school into the ground. She's finished. At the mention of his father, a silence fell. Everyone knew Mr. Briggs was a wealthy businessman with connections in politics. The kind of man who could crush reputations with a single phone call. Green's lips tightened. He looked at Alina. I'll have to report this to the board. But Alina finally turned, her voice calm yet cutting like steel. Do what you must. But remember this. If you allow Tyler to keep terrorizing students, one day it won't end with a sprained wrist. It will end much worse. Her words hung heavy in the room. Green swallowed, unsettled. Later that night, Alina sat alone in her small apartment. The city buzzed outside, but inside it was silent, save for the ticking clock. She reached into her closet, pulling out a worn wooden box she hadn't touched in years. Inside lay a faded military uniform, a set of dog tags, and photographs of soldiers standing shoulder to shoulder. Her past stared back at her. She had sworn to leave it behind, to build a life far from the shadows of war. But fate had other plans. Tyler Briggs had dragged her back toward the fire. Across town, Tyler sat at a long dining table, his father listening impatiently as he ranted. She humiliated me, Dad, in front of everyone! You have to do something, Mr. Briggs sipped his wine, eyes narrowing. A teacher laid hands on my son. That's enough reason to bury her career. But, he leaned back, a calculating glint in his gaze, I'll also dig into her past. No one fights like that unless they've done more than teach. Tyler's smirk returned. Then she's finished. What they didn't realize was this: Elena Cross wasn't the one whose future was about to be destroyed. It was theirs. Because when you challenge a soldier who has nothing left to lose, you awaken a storm that can't be contained.